trying to get this transmission harness off here. I'm pulling the transmission out of this so I can put a new torque converter in it because I already did the TSB on it. The starter's grinding on it, so the TSB didn't help. I put a different starter in it as well. I'm gonna go ahead and put a Honda starter in it and change out the torque converter because the gear is part of the torque converter. This isn't really my preferred vehicle to be working on. I don't work on Hondas very much. So man, some of these harnesses are just a real pain in the ass on these things. Alright, got that. Looks like we got another connector down there I gotta get loose. A couple of them down there. Looks like this throttle body one has to come loose too. This thing's not that new anymore, so everything's fighting me. Alright, so I think I'm going to go underneath and get those connectors down there, and then I'll come back up here, fold that harness out of the way, and then I'll get the transmission housing bolts up here. And then I'll get my jack under it, get the bottom ones, and then I'll get the flywheel bolt or the torque converter bolts out of there. And then we'll just kind of set this thing back and down. Oh, I gotta get my CV axles out of there too. Gotta do that. So I'll be right back. Alright, so we got these connectors here we need to get loose. Let's see. Yeah, so this one's got to come loose here. I know you can't probably see that very good, but let's see if I can move you over here. Get this connector loose. Stick a screwdriver under that. I can't get that. There we go. Sometimes you just got to lift up on the bottom of the tab. And you can squeeze it really hard sometimes, but sometimes it won't come loose. You got to give it a little bit of lift up on it a little bit so you can get it out of there without breaking the connector. Sometimes these things are really been on there for a while. So it looks like I gotta take this stuff off too because that kind of wraps around the bottom. Yeah, let's get this stuff loose. I'll put you on time lapse here. Alright, so I got all these connectors out. I like to take my time with these. I don't like to break the connectors. they have these little two tab deals you gotta squeeze and then pull it out of the bracket. And it's kind of a pain to do that. I like to take my time. So I'm changing the torque converter on this because the starter is grinding. I already did the TSB on it. So I'm gonna change the torque converter because the starter gear is part of the torque converter on the Hondas. And I already did the TSB. It has you clock the torque converter one hole, and I already did that. And it still has a problem, so we're gonna put a Honda starter in it and the Honda torque converter in it. So that's what I'm doing right now, is pulling this transmission out. So I already got a lot of it apart. I already got the the subframe and everything out of it already. Exhaust and all that stuff. So I'm just working on getting the rest of this harness out of the way. And then I'm gonna have to remove those coolant lines up there, get that out of the way. I gotta pull this manifold out, or this catalytic converter out. So I gotta pull this axle out of here, pull this axle out. So I have a little bit of work to do still. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So stand by. All right, let's get these torque converter nuts out, or bolts out. Let's see, what size was that? That was 18. I tell you, these are a lot of work getting these transmissions out of these Hondas. I normally am working on diesels and stuff like that, so I'm sure a regular Honda tech that does these every day probably get these out a lot quicker than me. And plus, I'm not really hurrying. I'm just taking my time. That one doesn't look too good. Bolt's kind of messed up. Huh. I'll have to call Honda and get a new bolt. I'm just rotating the crank. I think I might have, let me make sure I got them all. I think I have one more. Yeah, I'm just starting this YouTube thing. I probably gotta get some better camera equipment. So video's probably won't be that great at first, so I think you got, looks like we got another one there. That one out. Alright, get this out, and then I think next I'll get that catalytic converter out of there, and then get those axles pulled. Yeah, so that's our last one there. Alright, so now we gotta get this converter out of the way. Kind of dumb because you have to take all that out just to get that axle out. Of course, I think I left my ratchet up top, so now I gotta put the car back down and go get my ratchet. Alright, so let's get this converter out of the way. Let's see. Either want to unbolt those or unplug them. I think this bottom one I might just unscrew this one. Sometimes it's just easier to unscrew with it than trying to unplug it. So I'll just let that kind of hang there. And then I'll try to unplug it. Unscrew that top one too. Maybe, looks like the wire's gonna be too tight. Oh shit, well, I'll just undo it there. Actually, when I undo it, I can turn it. So I'll just leave it plugged in. Alright, so I'll let that hang. Let that hang there, because that's not going to be in the way. I'll put this bolt back in there. Get these top ones out. The sun's right in my eyes. Decent socket. And it doesn't help that I have it so far up in the air. I'm not that tall. Alright, so I got two on this side that I gotta get loose. Yeah. Throw converter or the catalytic converters out of the way. Now I gotta get this axle out of the way. Yeah, so just this bracket here. I have to get a bigger socket. Maybe a 14 or 15. Looks like a 14. Right there. Oh. Alright, so that's loose. I already got the axle end nut off there. So I gotta get a pan under that so I don't make a big mess. I think now I'll get that out. Should just pop out of there. All right, so let's slide this out. Alright, so I'm gonna leave the axle in there because it's seized up in the bearing, so I'm just gonna pull it out of the way and just slide that axle out and just let it hang. Let's let that drain out for a second. This kind of just makes it a bigger pain in the ass. I'll stick a bungee on that to hold that up so it doesn't pull out of the socket. So I got a bungee on that, so that should support that. Let's let that drain out. These are just a ton of work. There's just so much little stuff on these things. Alright, so let's get this other axle out. I'll probably just leave that in that bearing too. I just don't want to deal with it right now. I can let it hang and bungee it up. thinking what I'm gonna do here. Stick my bar in there, pop that loose. Usually don't come out that easy, but I will just pull this side out and just let this side hang too. Ah, shit. Looks like I need a little bit more persuasion on that one. So we gotta pull it all the way out without messing up that seal. So I don't wanna have to change the seal out. Jesus. Okay. Got that one out. I think I'll stick a bungee on that too. So it doesn't fall out of the socket. Alright, that should work. Let's let that drain out. Get closer. Still a little bit to go before I'm ready to pull the transmission, but I got a lot of it out of the way. Still need to get that cooler line up there. Get this out of the way. Still need to get that cooler line up there out of the way. And then make sure all my harness is disconnected. Because once I get the jack under this, under here, I don't want to have to mess with stuff up there. So I got to make sure everything's disconnected up top. That way when I'm ready to pull it, everything's free and ready to go. I don't have to screw around with it. So I'm gonna get that hose off there, and then I'm gonna drop this back down, make sure everything's free up top, and take my bolts out, because I'm gonna leave these bolts on down here until I'm ready. So all the bolts up there will be already out, and then I'll stick my jack under it, and then we'll separate it and get it down out of there. All right, stay tuned. All right, so I'm back up top. Got this harness kind of pulled back. I think I'll bungee. Hey, by the way, bungees are super awesome to have when you're working on stuff like this. You can just pull stuff out of the way so you're not fighting it. Gonna pull that up like that. Get my light over here. Alright, so what do I have left? I need to get the shifter cable out of the way. That's got to come out of the way. It's looking a lot better up here. I can actually see the transmission now that I got all that stuff out of the way. So let's get the shifter cable out of the way. I believe that's a 10 millimeter. This is 2 bolts. Just set that on top of that fender. See, I got this transverse bar on here to hold this whole engine and transmission up, because the cradle on this thing holds all that up. So you got to put this thing on there to hold everything up and in place. So it's kind of sketch sometimes, because you know you're under there working and this whole thing's just hanging off these bars. So you always got in the back of your mind is, what if this thing falls, you know? Squish like a bug. So I got this other bolt I gotta get out of the shifter cable. Set that up there. Alright, so that is out of the way now. I don't have to worry about that. I'll just tuck that up out of the way. So now I need to work on the transmission bolts. Oh, I still gotta get this front torque mount out of here, which is down there. It's like down there. Gotta get that out of the way. Once I get that out of the way, go pull that cooler hose off there, and then I think I'm ready to pull this thing. So stand by. Alright, so I think I got everything up top disconnected, and I think everything on the back is disconnected. So I ended up draining the fluid out of it because I didn't want to make, they were just dripping out of where the axles went. I didn't want to mess with it dripping on me all the time. And, you know, and I had new fluid to go in it, so I just went ahead and drained it, so I didn't have to mess with that. So I guess worst case, if I pull the bolts out of it and I miss something up top, I got a ladder, I can go up top and disconnect it or mess with it. So alright, so let's get the bolts out and then see if this thing is actually free. I think it'll go back together a lot quicker than it came apart, because like I said, I don't work on Hondas all that much. I'm more of a diesel guy. I work on a lot of Fords and been working on a lot of Chevy Duramaxes lately too. Alright, so see if I can get that. I got one more bolt up here. I need to get out. Looks like I might have to break out the wrench for that. This is the regular 3/8 ratchet. Yeah, if you ever get a 3/8 ratchet, these things are pretty sweet because you can get up into tight spots. Like if you have a bolt up here, you just lock this head into place. It's super awesome. Alright, so we're gonna get that bolt up there. See, I got this one locked in there like that, so because the bolt's way up here and I don't have no room for my ratchet over here, so. Ah, damn. Yeah, that is super duper tight. Top ones had red Loctite on. The ones at the very top. Guess they're afraid of this tranny falling out, huh? Looks like the gap's getting a little bigger over here, so maybe we got all the top bolts loose. I was kind of afraid that there was going to be one on the back buried under the cooler that I was going to have to get. Almost got it. Just a little bit more. Alright, so I do have a little bit of a gap there now. So I think that this thing is ready to come out unless I have something that I didn't get. Which, like I said before, if I need to, I can get a ladder and go up top and get it. I think I got it all free. Hopefully. Guess we're gonna find out here in a minute if I got it all. And this transmission looks pretty heavy, so hopefully it's on here. I think I'll get a little bar. Probably come up with it a little bit. I just don't want to push up too hard on it because that whole thing's being supported by that bar. Torque converter kind of wanted to slide out, but I think we're pretty sturdy as far as the way it's sitting on the jack. Okay. Let's check it out, make sure everything's free. And it kind of looks like we are. So we're gonna go ahead and drop this down now. I don't like this jack because the handle is down by the hydraulic ram and it doesn't have a foot pedal on it, so you gotta reach down and release it. Alright, let's check the back, make sure we don't have nothing getting pulled back here. Everything looks good. I don't see anything that's hanging up. Just nice and easy and slow. just in case you got a wire that you missed, you don't want to rip it in half. And once I get this down, I'll show you the ring gear sprocket's part of the torque converter. This is my sister's car, by the way. Alright, I think I'm pretty free, so I'm going to go ahead and come down a little faster now. Shit. Don't mind the junk in the background. I need to clean my shop. Torque converter came out of there quite a ways, actually. Alright, down we go, down we go. Down we go. Alright, so this is why I have to change this torque converter out, because the sprocket is part of the torque converter. And I already indexed this once per TSB, but it was still grinding, and I didn't want to take a chance of putting that new starter in and having it chew up that new starter, so I thought that this would be the best repair option here, so we don't keep having problems. Oh yeah, see right here, these teeth are chewed up pretty good right here. See that? Now just causing that to hang up. So I'm glad I'm doing it. Alright, well, I'm gonna end the video there, and I'm gonna get things cleaned up and get the new torque converter ready to go back in. Get the new torque converter ready to go back in. Get my tools kind of cleaned up a little bit, floor cleaned up, and we'll get ready to put this thing back in. Stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.